All right. Aloha and welcome to the 10th annual I Teach 808 Empowering Hawaii's Teachers in Technology Conference, supported by the Augustine Educational Foundation and Sacred Hearts Academy, Honolulu. My name is Laurie Warren, and I'll be facilitating this session. And we're so honored to have Michael Fricano here joining us today to share his expertise through his 90-minute presentation, which is titled 10 Ways to Transform Learning with Augmented Reality and Virtual Reality. Please be aware that we are recording this session. If you don't like being recorded, you may consider turning off your camera during the session, or you can review the recording afterwards. The recordings will be made available on YouTube and shared on I Teach 808's website a week after this event. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Michael.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. Welcome to, let me screen share. Welcome to 10 Ways to Transform Learning with Augmented Reality and Virtual Reality. So my goal in this session today is to share with you 10 of my favorite ways to use AR and VR in the classroom. And so along the way, I'll show you some tools. I'll share some examples of how I've been using some of these tools in my classroom, and then share some of the also some of the cutting edge newer stuff that's coming along that might be useful in your classrooms as well. My name is Michael Fricano II, and by day, I'm a K-6 design and technology teacher at Iolani School. I teach things from programming and robotics to cardboard construction, laser cutting, 3D printing. I do lots of fun stuff. I like to think I get a chance to play all day in a fun makerspace environment. But one of my passions is focusing on cutting edge technology, new things coming along, and honestly, having my students be guinea pigs in the testing and the functionality and use of this new technology, and seeing how it can ultimately transform learning and support our students in the classroom. But in order to do that, I have to be a learner as well. I have to be willing to open my mind and find new ways, better ways of being able to teach my content. So hopefully some of the tools you learn today will allow you to do the same. So the way I've sort of organized this session is I'll go through, this is like the top 10, right? 10 of my favorite ways to transform learning with AR and VR. So I'm going to start with my top 5 virtual reality tools, excuse me. And then we'll move into my top 5 AR tools. And you might see a little bit of repeating because some of the tools I'm going to share with you offer both, right? So my all-time favorite is both an AR and VR tool in the same, all built into one tool. So we're going to see that through both AR and VR. But we'll start with virtual reality today, and it's going to dive right into it. So my favorite, how about my shirt here? My favorite AR VR tool is CoSpaces EDU, and it's a web-based, also app-based AR VR creation tool, but it's designed for students. There's lots of VR creation tools out there. A lot of them more focused on business, right? Designing experiences for companies, either for their customers or primarily business and customer oriented design, right? So and typically attempting to sell products and things like that. But this tool is designed specifically for K-12 students, right? So getting our students interested in designing their own AR and VR content, and it's all through a drag and drop system. So taking pre-existing three-dimensional objects and being able to drag them into a design space to create either an AR or VR experience. So on the virtual reality side, you can create these experiences on pretty much any device. So if you have Chromebooks, laptops, desktops, iPads, Android tablets, you can even do it on a phone. Pretty much any device, as long as you have internet access, you can use CoSpaces, and you can create CoSpaces and you can view other people's CoSpaces. And I use it with my students, and I've also created my own content to teach information to my students. I'll show you a couple of examples of that. So it's a great tool for teachers, like to design content that they can use as a supplement for their lesson. But it's also it's an even more powerful tool for students. And ultimately that's always my goal. How can I get these tools in the hands of my students and get them creating their own content? But of course, it's always great to start with some examples, like showing them what's possible, what the tool is capable of, and what their potential is in creating their own content. It is what we call a freemium tool, right? So there is a free side. It has limited access, but all great stuff comes with paid access. And I think they changed their pricing model. I think it's about $6 or $7 per student, or per seat per year. So it's a subscription based pricing model where you pay for the seat. But what I typically do, because I teach K through 6 and we use it across multiple grade levels, is we'll purchase a certain number of seats, not necessarily for every student, but we'll reuse those seats. So like maybe I'll do a project with 3rd grade for the first quarter, and then we'll kick them off of our CoSpaces license, and then we'll have a 4th grade project and we'll add them into the seats. We'll reuse those seats. So it's not necessarily like you have to think of it as like buying every student their own seat, but just knowing how many students you want to have access at any given time, and then you can recycle seats. That's how we kind of save a little bit on money and repurpose the seats when we are moving through the year and creating different projects. And then one thing I really love about CoSpaces is the ability to program within the tool. So it's not just a 3D building tool, but you can also program things to happen in there through either a block-based programming language. They have their own block-based language called CoBlocks. So it's very similar to like Scratch, scratchcode.org. They all use like snapping blocks together to tell a robot or to tell a program what to do. This is very similar. But if you have more advanced students, you can also program in JavaScript or TypeScript. And they're also beta testing Python coding within CoSpaces as well. So I've seen some pretty amazing complex experiences designed with those higher level programming languages in CoSpaces. So it's definitely possible to get older kids that are interested in the like JavaScript or Python. And then whatever you create, you can share and explore, right? So my goal with my students is always to create something with an audience in mind. You're not just creating it for yourself and me, but we should always have an audience in mind. And often that might be like the larger school community or even the world. So CoSpaces has a great public facing gallery that teachers can share student projects to, so that other people around the world can view them as well. And we have an audience in mind. We put more effort into it. We create better quality products, hopefully. At least that's the goal. And then other people can explore these virtual experiences. So let me show you some examples of how I've used it as a teacher, teacher-created content and also student-created content. So, slide. Skip it. Oh, here we go. So one I'm actually using right now with our 3rd grade as we start a space exploration unit. They're going to be building their own space exploration vehicles out of recycled materials and things like that as one of our construction projects. But before we get to that point, they need to develop some background knowledge. So what do we know about space? What do we want to explore and learn more about space? And so one of the experiences that I created in CoSpaces for them was putting them in the Apollo 11 lunar lander. And so I built this in CoSpaces and created an interactive experience for them. If you want to view, I'm sorry, let me backtrack here. Forgot to mention something earlier. Well, actually, at the bottom of every slide here is a link to this presentation, or to the website that has this presentation. I'll put it in the chat really quick, but you'll see this link at the bottom of every slide. So if you want to follow along with me, there are links to these projects on the slides that talk about them. There's the link in the chat. So feel free to click where it says click. If you see like a little a chain link here, that means there's something linked up there for you to access. So feel free to explore these projects on your own as I kind of talk my way through them. So this particular one, again, it's inside the Apollo 11. So if I click on it, I'm going to load it in my web browser here. And what's kind of cool and unique about this is when you load it, I'm going to press play. If you use your mouse to move around, you are literally sitting in the cockpit of the Apollo lunar lander. Now the way I accomplished this was not necessarily all through CoSpaces. So this 3D model of the lunar lander also actually came from the Smithsonian website. So they have downloadable 3D scans of things like this. And you can download this as a 3D model. And then one of the great features of CoSpaces is the ability to upload other 3D models into its tool for use in your projects. So one that I found was really cool was like the actual inside of the Apollo 11 lander here. And then you can position yourself inside of it. So you look like you're sitting in the cockpit here looking out at space and the moon. And then through CoSpaces, you can build in interactivity. So we have some buttons here and some panels. And when you click on one, it reveals some information in the window there for you that the students can read and learn more about Apollo 11. And that'll disappear after a couple seconds. And then they can view some actual images. So there's a NASA image found on the web. And then the astronauts there. And then an actual, probably one of the first SEVs or rovers and so on. So a very, very simple, very, very short interactive experience for students to start thinking about space and what's been done, what's been accomplished, but also what's left to explore. And again, this is a teacher-created VR experience, right? And I'm viewing it through my web browser, right? But if you have a tablet or iPad, you could do it on the iPad. If you have like a VR kit with phones, you could turn this into a true virtual reality experience with the VR headsets if you want to. So again, accessible across pretty much any device that you have access to in your school. Oops, there we go. So that's one example, teacher created. On the student side, something else we do this with 5th grade. This is a 5th grade project from last year. So one of the topics we focus on in our design tech class is climate action. And we use the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And they've also created something called the Climate Action Superheroes to help kids relate to those goals a little easier. And so what we do is we have 5th graders choose a climate action superhero, and they create a climate action scavenger hunt in virtual reality to help educate others about these goals and the problems our world faces and actions that we can take. So, and they do this in CoSpaces. So this particular student created one on the Veggie Vindicator is one of the superheroes. So let me click into it. And so through this, they learn how to design a 3D environment. They learn how to program a sequence of events. So a little bit more complex coding to cause things, certain things to happen based on other actions that the user takes. So here we begin in a house, and this lady says to click me. So we talk about things like user design and how do we prompt our users, how do they know what to do, where are the instructions going to come from. So we click here and she introduces herself, so we put the player in the shoes of the superhero. So I am the Veggie Vindicator and I need to help make their camp a better place. So I have to go to the fresh produce store that's through this door over here. So I can use the controls on my keyboard to virtually walk through this experience into the fresh produce. And here I click on this guy. And so what he wants, so she's challenging me to pick the 4 healthy foods from the shelf, right? So again, all these actions, being able to click on this person and then being able to click on these foods and figuring out whether it's healthy or not is all being done through code, right? So there's code in the background that's controlling these actions and waiting for certain things to happen. So I have to find the healthy foods. So that one's healthy and it's going to disappear. Let's see, how about the candy cane? Oops. Click. There we go, not healthy, okay. Egg is healthy. Squash is healthy. Lettuce is healthy. And then if I get all 4, he's gonna disappear and the next person's gonna tell me what to do. Right, so they create the sequence of events that's walking the player through different actions that are related to their climate action superhero in ways that we could achieve these United Nations goals. So this is a student created project, an example of using CoSpaces, creating a virtual reality experience, climate action scavenger hunt. I have one more. No, that was it. Okay. I have lots more examples. I'll point you to a website where I've got lots more projects listed for CoSpaces. But that's one of my favorite VR tools. Kind of dive in really quick to an example here. Let me see. Just trying to find. Let's create a new one. So on the creation side, this is what the creation tool looks like. You're given a 3-dimensional workspace here, and then you have a large library of 3D objects that you can access. And as I mentioned earlier, it's a simple drag and drop system, right? So dragging in objects, being able to manipulate those objects, make them face different directions, hover in the air, scaling them, and then placing them with around in a 3-dimensional space to design that virtual scene. And then on the coding side, it's a block-based language, right? So I can do things like I forgot to do something. I got to turn this rabbit on to using code blocks. And then, so like we saw in the example of clicking the fruit, all I got to do is say when the rabbit is clicked, I'll make it say something. So say, welcome to the park. Oops. And then one thing we teach our students as coders is you always test along the way, right? So as soon as you create something, jump into play, and then I can see the rabbit and click on them and it says, welcome to the park, right? So just snapping blocks together to create this interactivity really elevates the project and makes it more engaging and fun for your viewer or your user. Okay, so that's one of my VR tools. We move on to the next one. The next one, mostly a consumption tool, right, is YouTube, is just YouTube. Right, so YouTube isn't just your standard 2D videos. There's also lots of great content that are filmed as 360-degree videos. Oh yeah, sure, Lance. I'll put the link in the chat a little later for the Smithsonian stuff. Yeah, so on YouTube, people have uploaded all kinds of great video content that are recorded in 360 degrees. And so what that allows you to do is virtually look around in that video. So it's not just watching a video in the direction that the camera's facing, right? You just sort of sit there and watch the video, but you can interact with the video and change your perspective, change your views. You can click and drag in a 360-degree video to look behind you or to look left and right or to look up and down. And so it makes for a much more immersive experience, and it puts you in that first person perspective, like you are the person walking around in that video, being able to look in every direction. And so there's lots of, it's YouTube, so there's some really bad videos out there, but there's also some really great high quality videos. As a teacher, we have to sort of be the filter through all that bad and great content, of course. But with YouTube, once you find really good videos, you can build playlists and share those playlists with your students so that they have access to the exact content that you want them to view, as opposed to having sort of that free reign search of YouTube. And then one way I found, if your school, your IT department allows you to do this, is using the paid version of YouTube called YouTube Red. And what YouTube Red allows you to do is it allows you to download YouTube videos onto your device so that you don't have to, stream them and buffer them and, wait for them to process. So there's a benefit to that. It'll just play instantly if you download it. And then another bonus to that is the way I use it is I'll create a playlist, download the videos of that playlist onto our VRKit device, and then I'll turn the device offline. So what that does is it takes away their ability to search through the rest of YouTube and to go on that sort of that rabbit hole or get distracted, and they're locked into just the videos that I've downloaded for them. Right. So it's again, YouTube Red's a paid feature, but it gives you some more management and control over what students have access to during the class in YouTube. I've got, I think on the next slide here, I've got a link to my playlist. I've done some sort of vetting and some collecting myself. And excuse me, this link here on the left is my collection of educational related YouTube 360 videos. So there's videos of like being underwater around a shipwreck infested with sharks. There's a 360 video of flying through the solar system, and there's a great narration along the way, so learning about the planets in the solar system. There's one where you're literally like flying through the human body, so you're a tiny little speck, being able to fly inside and around the human body. Sort of on like the older, higher grade, and I mean this is more like what's possible beyond school, but like there's some great videos of surgical procedures being recorded in 360. So it's like, I think in one of the videos you can take a look at it, but like it's from the perspective of the patient lying on the surgery table, and having the doctor standing around you and talking to you and sharing about what's going to happen, and then being able to watch that surgery occur. Right. So this is being done a lot in hospital schools, where now they're able to pull doctors that are training and learning from all over the world into one specific surgery. And so it's being able to connect people from various schools into one space to learn with each other. So the playlist here, find an example. So this is my playlist. So here, like the Explore the Solar System. I don't think, I'm going to stop sharing and then reshare. I don't think I optimized this for video. Try that. Okay. Screened. Sorry, guys. Sure, there we go. Sure, video panel. Just lost my videos. Okay, so full screen this.
In the way of your summer?
Ads.
Yeah.
Gigantic red spot created by a
I think also the bonus to YouTube Red is you don't have all the ads. That's another.
persistent hurricane.
So here,
The Great Red Spot is a persistent.
so you there's somebody narrating along the way, but as a 360 video, you're not just stuck with the perspective that the camera was facing when this was being created or recorded. It's the ability to use your mouse to drag around. So I'm controlling the direction that I'm viewing this in, right? And so I'm looking around. Of course, the focus is on Saturn right now with some pop-up videos and facts and things, but I have the freedom to kind of look around and explore what's around me as the narration and the video continues, right? What's kind of cool is if you kind of look around, you see some kind of silly things happening around you as the video is playing, like an astronaut or something related to Star Wars here, or some cartoons that they might have watched in the past. But through the experience, they're learning about the solar system, being able to freely look around. So this is what we call, again, a 360 video. And because it's YouTube, it can be watched on as long as you have a web browser and internet, or the YouTube app on your mobile device, you can experience this. And there's a little dial control up here that I can control my view with as well. There. Go back. One thing we're planning to use this with is in a couple of weeks in 6th grade, they start a unit in language arts where they're reading novels that are based on stories of refugees from different countries. And so they're reading these stories, but they're also, learning about empathy and, learning about what's happening in the world around them. And so one way we help them to build that empathy around these characters and these stories is we start by having them watch some of these 360 videos that are related to the refugee crisis around the world. So one is this out of Syria and back into school video. That's one of them. There's another one. There's a few more in here. There's also Seeking Home. So life inside the Calais migrant camp. And so what these do is they put you in the first person perspective of a refugee and what is their daily life like in a camp. So here we have an example in Lebanon.
Of a makeshift camp built by people who fled their homes across the border in Syria.
Right? And they can.
This country is home to more than
they take on that first person perspective through the 360 video, and they're able to freely look around and see what kind of environment they live in, and then they have conversations about what they notice. How do you think these people feel? What kind of emotions are they going through? What kind of problems are they facing? To really get them to put them in the perspective of a refugee in these horrible situations, right? And then when they get into reading their novels, they're able to build more empathy and thoughts around this bigger issue that we face. So places where they see where they live, right? And so again, these there's also there's great documentaries out there and news stories that are recorded in standard 2D video format, but to put them in this unique perspective, I think really adds to the experience and the emotions and the empathy that we want to invoke in students as they learn about these topics. So there's some really powerful 360 videos out there that can help to accomplish these things. And then of course there's some fun videos, not really educational, but it just kind of shows the potential of what we can do as 360 video film with films. This one is a Where's Waldo experience.
You look like Chris Pratt.
No, but I got Burt Macklin.
You're,
whoever that guy is.
Oh no, I don't really see it.
These two guys are looking for Waldo, and you have to try to find the real Waldo within this scene. There's lots of fake Waldos. But these guys are looking for Waldos. There's some really cool special effects that happen in here, and it's kind of cool just to watch if you ever actually look at the Where's Waldo books, there's all these other kind of fun things happening in the image, but this guy did it yet, but he's a little magician that'll do a little magic trick if you watch him long enough. So, aside from finding out Where's Waldo, there's also some fun things happening. But so this one, kind of just shows the potential of 360 video for entertainment. How can we use this video format to entertain people? Because if you think about with 360, in a standard video, when you have a film crew, the film crew is behind the camera, right? So you have the audio crew and the director and the actor standing by and things like that. But when you're recording in 360, where does that film crew stand? Where do they go? Right? How do you film something like that when you can't have your standard film crew, standing behind the camera? So you have to kind of reimagine how we film something like this and rethink that process. And so it's kind of cool to see some of these these entertaining videos come out and think about how we can accomplish something like this, and then incorporate special effects and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's YouTube. So YouTube's a great, again, a great consumption tool. There's really good quality content out there that we can use to help supplement our lessons. The next one is another one of my favorites, Google Art and Culture. So this is a completely free to use tool, right? It's made by Google. It's been around for a long time. It's Google's way of like bringing art and culture to everyone around the world. So they've visited many museums and have scanned artwork and have created 360 tours of historical locations, and then this website compiles all that stuff into one place for us to access. And so not only can you travel to the Louvre and view paintings and high quality scans, but they've also built in the ability to take virtual tours, to virtually walk around places like the Louvre and other historical locations. They've also got high quality scans of 3D models of artifacts from history, and 3D model scans of famous artwork and things like that. And then you can access all this information through Google Arts and Culture. So they have, specifically related to VR, they have the ability to visit places all over the world in immersive 360-degree tours, right? So any famous place you can think of is for the most part accessible on Google Arts and Culture. So this is slide 9 here. I've just collected an example of different places you could go. So like virtually walking around inside of an ancient Egyptian tomb. I just used this one with my third graders related to that space exploration unit. So there you can virtually float through the International Space Station because there's no gravity in space. So there's high quality scans throughout the entire inside of the ISS, and you can take your students virtually inside of the space station. And then there's like the Taj Mahal and Machu Picchu. So we'll go to the space station as an example. And so what's great about Google Arts and Culture, it's not just taking them there, but giving them the information and the knowledge surrounding that particular topic. So the ISS tour is accessible through this arts and culture collection called 20 Years on the ISS. So it's sort of celebrating the 20 years that it's been in existence and been up in space. And there's there's like fun facts, the 20 most asked questions and answers, and some great videos related to the topic. You can learn about the history of it, and then they kind of quiz you along the way. They challenge you about what you're learning, and then depending on the topic, you could explore certain things in 3D, so 3D models. So this gets into augmented reality. I'll come back to that a little later. But then you can take virtual tours, right? So this one, I can go inside the International Space Station here, right? And let me say, and very high quality images. So I'm dragging myself around, and I'm inside the actual International Space Station. And then my mouse, you see on the bottom there, I can virtually move myself in that direction. So I'm not just stuck in this one spot, but maybe I want to go down this corridor here. So I'll click, and it'll fly me in that direction. So the entire inside of the ISS has been scanned in high quality, as a high quality 3D model that now we can virtually transport students to. So we can take them into the ISS and let them kind of explore around freely on their own. And I haven't explored the whole thing yet, so I'm not sure if you'd run into any astronauts along the way, but just see like just how complex, even like, I guess that's their version of duct taping things together right there. But I mean, it's how they pack things in and store things, and you could have some really great conversations about like, well, why does all this stuff have to be tied down, and what do you think this machine or equipment is for, and don't know if I can I go down there? Down in that hole there. Not really sure. But yeah, when I showed this to my third graders, am I still here? Like, I got a Zoom quit unexpectedly box here. Hopefully I'm still here. Okay. Yeah, so built into this like collections and Google Arts and Culture are these this ability to take virtual tours depending on the play, if you're visiting a place or if there's a particular location connected to that. I'm muted. Can you hear me okay? Sorry about that.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think I'm overloading my computer with too much fun stuff. I think that tour of the ISS labored my computer a little bit. Okay, so Google Arts and Culture. So great virtual tours. This is just like the tip of the iceberg here. There's tons of places you can go. Like I said, like famous museums, you can virtually, what's cool is you can like virtually walk around in an art exhibit and then click that painting on the wall and get a high quality scan of it. So it's you can get closer to paintings in Google Arts and Culture than you can actually being physically in that museum. It's amazing. I'm not going to try to find it, but one great example is forget the artist's name. It's the artist that paints with dots. It's a very famous painting where you're viewing people in a park. Anybody know what I'm talking about? I forget the name of it, but he paints in dots, right? And so what's cool about Google Arts and Culture is they've done such a high quality scan that you can literally zoom in so close to that painting that you can see each individual dot. And in some cases, like how thick the paint is in particular areas. And so you can only do that through Google Arts and Culture. You can't even get that close in a museum, of course, for safety and for the protection of the art. But they've been given access to that stuff so that we can get very unique views of things that we can't normally see in real life. So it's pretty amazing, some of the quality of stuff. And you can definitely go down a deep rabbit hole with Google Arts and Culture. It's a really great resource for lots of subject areas, lots of different content. Okay. All right. The next tool on the VR side is ThingLink VR. So ThingLink VR is another VR creation tool. You can upload your own 360-degree images and 360-degree videos if you have the technology to create that stuff on your own, and then you can create interactive experiences that can be shared with other people. And again, it's just through like a drag and drop system. And what's cool about the interactivity side of it is you can embed a variety of content into these 360 experiences. So, for example, you can embed other images, other standard videos, and these become like clickable buttons in the experience to add more content to the experience. You can also embed audio, so you can have like students narrate to the viewer as they explore the 360 scene. You can also embed Google files. So like, let's say you want to quiz your viewer, so you can create a Google form and have that Google form pop up inside that 360 image for the viewer to take, along with like Google Slides and things like that. And then this, there is a premium paid side. I think that gives, like, to be able to create VR, it's free, but for teachers, if you want to be able to like manage students and give them project assignments and access the work that they're creating, there's a paid side of that gives you those management tools. So a couple of examples. One in our grade 2 class, one thing they do every year, one of their focuses in grade 2 is talking about community. And so they start with the school community. So what is the community we are a part of in our school? And then they branch off from that. What is the community surrounding our school? What is the community in our state? And so they take that small concept and then really expand on it. And so to kick it off, they create a ThingLink project of their classroom that they share with their family, their class community. Right? So what is our class community? What does it look like? what do we do on a daily basis inside of our classroom? So they create, they create a 360 tour, a 360 experience of inside their classroom. And I don't have a link to this, unfortunately. I have to get it. But then you can virtually move around in the classroom and then click these bubbles that give you narration by students and show close-up pictures of different parts of their classroom and what each part of their classroom, what the purpose of each part of their classroom is and how they use it on a daily basis. And so it's a great way to like visually represent their class community and to really strengthen that concept of what is a community and how does it support me and the rest of the people in my community. So this is one way that our grade 2 is using ThingLink. So like the teachers start by creating the picture, and then like each student is responsible for creating one of the interactive bubbles in the ThingLink classroom experience. And then the student creates the image and the text and the narration that's in that specific bubble. And then another example, something that I do every year is our grade 6, they put on this big medieval fair around April. And it's kind of scattered all throughout our lower school campus. And so to help bring this to our greater school community, people that can't attend the fair, I create a virtual tour of the fair. And then the students help by creating the narration and the imagery and the videos that are attached to it. This one actually has a link, so you can click on it. It's a slide 12. And so we share this through our communications after the fair is done. And so when we get started, so this is just like a standard 2D image, but these are clickable buttons here, depending on what kind of character you want to visit in the fair. Let's say you want to go find the knights and the crusaders. So I'll click into there. And let's go visit the knights dueling out on the outside tent. And then here we have a 360 image of the knights dueling with their armor and their swords that they made as part of their project. And then these bubbles or tags are the interactive elements. We can click or tap into these. This particular one gives us a video showing us the knights dueling, this sort of choreographed part of their project. They had to practice this and then demo it. And then you can move around, and there's also some images up here. There we go. Or that, I'm sorry, this one moves them to their display table. So through ThingLink, what's cool too is you can create a virtual tour and connect 360 images and take the viewer on a guided experience, or give the viewer the ability to choose where they want to go, right? So creating these home buttons brings them back to the beginning, and then they can go on a different tour, visit another booth or a different tent, or explore a different type of character or job from the medieval fair. Right, so creating this virtual tour that offers all kinds of different content, and the students help to create that content through the development of their specific medieval fair project. So this is another way that this is a more teacher created experience versus a student created experience.
There's a good question in the chat.
Oh yeah.
How do you take this image? Do you
Good
have
question.
to have a 360 camera?
Yeah. So back here. Oops. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So to start, you have to be able to capture a 360 image or a 360 video, right? So there's lots of cameras that are designed specifically for this purpose. There's really high quality, expensive cameras, and there's some cameras on the lower end that are more affordable. One company camera that I like is Insta360. So let's see. And this company sells a line of different 360 cameras. Some of them focused on like recording content for sports and things like that. But this is a 360 camera, right? So it's specifically designed to take 360-degree images and video along with recording audio with that video. And then you can take that image or video into a tool like ThingLink and use it to create these virtual tours. So I think let's see. I think this is the new one, the X3. And you see here, there's an example of different people using it to record different kinds of content. And then there are different mounts and things like that. Looks like the base price of the One X2 is $364, knocked down there. So yeah, so again, there's lots of different kinds of 360 cameras. This is my favorite company. They produce really good quality cameras. And then the other reason I like this company specifically is because they have a really good mobile app that you can do post editing, and you can do some pretty fancy things. I don't know if you saw in one of these videos, they put a Monet background on it. So there's some really fancy like editing features in the end where you can there you go. See that little Monet in the skyline there. So you can do some pretty fancy post editing stuff with their apps afterwards. Yeah, so that's just one example of a 360 camera. Good question. Okay. And then number 5, so the last on my VR list here is the Meta Quest 2, right? So this is sort of on the higher end of virtual reality. Like if you want to get into true VR experiences and really putting yourself in that first person perspective where you are fully immersed in a 360-degree environment, getting into these high-end VR headsets is the way to go. And there's some really great educational content within these particular devices. So Meta Quest, Meta is the company owned by Facebook. They are the VR headset department of Facebook. So they produce their own VR headset. And it's like the most affordable all-in-one standalone VR headset, right? So I think the starting price of a Meta Quest 2 right now is $399, although there's a lot of talk of a new Quest device coming out probably later this year, so that price might drop. But it's high quality VR content all built into this headset. So this headset has all the technology built into it. You don't have to have a high-end computer to run it. You have no cables coming out of it that need to run to some type of computer. You don't need any of that. It's just you put the headset on and you are good to go, right? So it's what we call an all-in-one standalone headset. And then it's got a room scale tracking, right? So what that means is it can scan and sense a physical space. And then in some VR apps in the headset, you can physically walk around within your room. That translates into walking around in that virtual space, as opposed to sitting in a chair, standing still. So there are some apps that allow you to do that. And then it's got touch controls and hand gesture recognition. So the headset comes, I think we saw it at the beginning here, picture, right? So the headset comes with these handheld controls, these little things you hold in your hand that control your movement and have buttons on them, sort of like video game controllers. But it also has hand gesture recognition. So you could put the controllers down and just use your hands to control what's happening in your screen. So you can use your finger to tap on a button or swipe your hand to scroll through a website, because the headset has these sensors on the outside that can see what's happening outside of the headset. You can see your hands and track your finger movements and your hand gestures. So it's got some pretty cool functionality that can't be done with any other technology that we have. And then it is connected to Facebook, right? So there's that sort of that fear and that hesitation with using Facebook in school and that kind of thing. And so what Meta is starting to do is they've moved away. They sort of kind of disconnect a little bit from Facebook, where you don't have to have a Facebook account to use the headset anymore. They have their own separate account system through Meta. So you can set up a non-Facebook account to connect to the headset. And they're starting to roll out, at least right now, they're called parental controls. So if you have a child that's 13 or older and they want to use the headset, you can set up, child accounts and control those accounts through the parent and prevent them from accessing certain kinds of content and maybe lock them into certain apps and things like that. So these are controls, although meant for parents, could start to be explored for the classroom, right? How can we take advantage of these management tools and these parental supervision features in a classroom to help manage the content that our students might have access to. So there's some really great educational content in the App Store. There's lots of entertainment stuff out there too, but there's some really great educational stuff. So like there is like a really good high quality Apollo 11 Quest experience related to space. Well, there's we've used this one before, the Anne Frank house in VR. So like putting students in the perspective of Anne Frank and showing her like where she lived and where she was hiding and what was her daily experience like in that time. So there's a really great experience around that. And then there's some great creation apps like Sculptor VR, and I think Tilt Brush is no longer Tilt Brush, but there's another company that kind of recreated that app. But these are all creation tools where you can, like, Sculpt VR allows you to actually sculpt 3D models in virtual reality. So not just like painting on a two-dimensional canvas, but like actually sculpting something in 3 dimensions and being able to move around and physically walk around that 3-dimensional object. And then what's cool is you can export that 3D model and then 3D print it if you want to, or use it in some other tool like CoSpaces. So creating something in VR and then using it in other tools. And then you have like the popular games like Beat Saber. Like I've seen some great examples of like PE classes using these like things like Beat Saber to incorporate exercise in a way that students enjoy, right? So these exercise games, these dance and Dance Revolution type games, to help students get that physical activity that they need. So this is just, again, like the tip of the iceberg of what's accessible and available in something in a high-end VR device. Okay. So that was the VR side. Now I'm going to jump into the AR side and explore some tools that I enjoy using for augmented reality, right? So virtual reality is the idea of like transporting students somewhere else in the world, a place that we can't maybe physically take them, either because it's historical or it's too far away, but taking them somewhere else, right? Think of the idea of VR as taking students on this sort of virtual field trip, transporting them somewhere else. Augmented reality is this ability to bring something into the classroom. So augmenting their physical space, adding something to their physical environment that they don't normally have access to. So one tool I'm going to jump back into is CoSpaces. So CoSpaces creates virtual reality, but it can also create augmented reality. And one way it does that is through this block here called a Merge Cube. This is like a foam augmented reality tool. And in CoSpaces, you can design 3D models that are displayed on the cube. And because it's something tangible, we can hold this in our hand. We can manipulate that 3D model and turn it and examine it and explore it in the palm of our hand. And so one example of this is a teacher-created activity that I do at the beginning of the year called the Intro to the Tech Lab. So I've created an interactive introduction to our class using the cube. So the way, let's see if I can get this to work. Okay, let me just rearrange my screens. Oops, that didn't work. Sorry, I'm just playing the, there we go. Just resizing my screens here. Okay, so on the left side, this is my phone. Can you guys see that on the left? Okay, this is my phone. And let's see here, it's a remix. So I'm going to open up my Merge Cube. Play it. Go this one. Okay, go that way. Okay. Oh yeah, so let's try this. So this, so what this does is it's using my camera, right? So again, augmented reality is adding something into your real physical environment. So it uses the camera and then it's looking for the cube in order to transform that cube into the 3D model that I've created in CodeSpaces. So in this case, I take my merge cube, put it in front of the camera, and it's transformed into that
Part of part of your
what-
screen is blocked.
oh, it is.
blocked
I'm
by
sorry.
your-
Wait, I know. Let me go like
Yeah, there you go.
get rid of this and just do this. That's better, yeah. There we go.
Yeah,
Okay, so it transforms the cube into the 3D model experience I created in CodeSpaces, and then I use code to create interactive elements on that cube, right? So, and again, because it's a physical, tangible tool, I can physically move it around on my desk or in my hand, and then if I hover that that dot over the interactive element, you see if it gets bigger, that means that's something I can tap on, I can interact with, right? So on this first side, they're just moving it around and learning about the topics that we're going to focus on in technology class. So this particular one is keyboarding skills, and if I tap it, it'll kind of move things around there. So just a little bit of interactivity. And then we have, like, we're going to learn about digital citizenship. So if I tap the key, that's going to unlock or lock, I guess, a privacy protected, right? So, and then this one, I think the car drives around and shows them like the code that was used to program that to happen. So kind of giving them a little example of like what they're going to create. Okay. And then I can move on to the rules of the lab, and that'll all load a completely different experience. There we go. So these are the rules of the lab, and then they can tap on a play button and then watch an example of that rule play out in 3D. Right. So this is an example of, again, a teacher created activity that kind of introduces. And then the idea here too, from me, is to show them like, this is something that you're going to create, an example of something you're going to create eventually too. Right. So here's an example. Here's the potential of the tool. How can you use it to create something of your own? Okay. Back here. So that's one. And then another example, along with that grade 3 space exploration. So they went inside the Apollo 11 in a previous CodeSpaces project. In this particular one, they're going to explore the planets of our solar system. Let me load this up. And so this one is a little too big for my space here. So the merge cube is transformed into the sun, and then there's a little fact box kind of floating along the side of the sun there. And then if I change the scene, they're now looking at Mercury and getting some facts. So really simple experience, just to give them some simple background information, facts about the planets. Because eventually what these students are going to have to do is pick, they're going to choose a place that they want to explore in space. So do they want to explore a planet, a black hole, a star, comet, an asteroid, right? So they're going to be able to make that choice later on. So they need to develop some of this background knowledge and learn about some facts and history around these things. And then this is a student created example. So this is 6th grade, and they took a classic fairy tale, and then in this case, the student reimagined it. Some created the same fairy tale, but others chose to sort of reimagine the fairy tale. And then they created a visual 3-dimensional story cube based on that fairy tale. So the person viewing it, I think I got to click on this one. BGE CSU. Yeah. I'll just load it up with my browser here. And what's cool about these AR experiences is if you don't have like the merge cube, or you don't have mobile devices to be able to explore the merge cubes, it's something you can also do again on a laptop or a computer. So in this case, I'm not using the camera. I'm just viewing the cube in this 3-dimensional space on my web browser, right? So you don't have to have all this equipment and technology to use it. You can do some very simple things. So this one, so each each scene plays out a part of the story with the dialogue, and they have to learn how to program the movements and the characters and the animations to bring that story to life. So this one is based on the Goldilocks and the Three Bears. I think she reimagined it as 3 unicorns. Okay, so this again, this is an example of a student-created AR activity project, right? So creating a reimagined fairy tale story cube and incorporating that dialogue, and then they have to. Because for this one, we gave them an audience. We told them, you're making this for a kindergartner. So how do you create an experience where it's easy for a kindergartner to use, to read, and to enjoy, right? And so keeping the dialogue simple, slowing things down so that a kindergartner has time to view it and understand it, and then making the story move automatically and timed so that it's not too fast, right? Because we can't expect a kindergartner to try to move a black dot onto a button and tap on it. We want to sort of try to automate everything. So again, keeping that audience in mind, giving them an audience so they know who they're designing this for, so that the experience can be designed for that particular person in mind. Okay, let's see where. Okay, so the next one is Quiver Vision. I think our first graders are using this right now in their own class, but these are basically, it's printable coloring pack. So it's something you can print out in color on a piece of paper, and then you use the Quiver Vision app and point the camera at that coloring sheet, and then it pulls that image, that colored image, off the page into a 3-dimensional model, right? It's like they can color a picture of Earth and then use the Quiver Vision app and turn their version of Earth into a 3-dimensional model of Earth, right? So there's lots of different printable coloring packs surrounding the life cycle of a plant and the solar system. I think they just released ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, right? So coloring sheets for the alphabet and for numbers, and then they can bring those letters and numbers to life on their papers. And then this is a paid subscription model, but it's actually pretty cheap. I think it's like $9 for 30 seats per month. Right? And I think if you buy in bulk for a grade level, you get it for a much cheaper cost. But they have you can download and print out the coloring sheets, and there's activity plans or lesson plans that are pre-made for teachers to use. And then they have a variety of educational topics. So just another type of AR experience that's designed more for younger students. So very, it's all about, it's more for like educational entertainment. So coloring, learning about a specific topic in class, and then using something like Quiver Vision to bring it to life. So I see like a lot of teachers, especially in our first grade, they use this as like a centers activity, right? So it's not something to necessarily focus on as a whole class, but they'll introduce it, and then it becomes one of those activities that students can do as they kind of rotate through different centers in their classroom. So another AR tool to explore. And then another of my favorites is Merge EDU. So going back to that Merge Cube, the Merge Cube is not made by CoSpaces. It's just CoSpaces has implemented a way to create for it. But the cube is a tool created by the company Merge, and they have their own educational content. And theirs is connected specifically to science for the most part. So they've got lots of great science content for their tool. And one of the apps is Merge Explorer. So I can pull it up on my phone here really quick. So Merge. Switch to my phone. Oops. Let's do that. Oh, okay. So this is the Merge Explorer app. And what's cool about Merge Explorer is it's not only transforming the cube into 3D content, but it's building it around a lesson or activity where they learn about the content that are exploring on the cube, as well as using the cube to interact with it. So like one is like Mr. Body here. And so through the app, they're given this like self-guided lesson, right? So they can learn, they're learning about the human body here. There's some really great features built in, like the ability for the text to be read to the student. So if they tap on that little book icon, they can play.
Sorry
You guys
to
get that?
interrupt. Just to let you know, we have 15 minutes left.
Okay. And so it'll read the text to the student, highlight the words for them as they go. So a great way to support students that need that extra support. And then throughout, built into the lesson is this ability to transform the cube, right, into the human body in a very cartoon fun way. And then they can tap on the different parts of the body and then learn about like the organs and the different systems within the body. So again, in the Explorer app, it's like 3D models and content tied to the cube, but built around this lesson that gives them more information, more context. And then the other app they have is, and then there's lots of great science related content built into it. So these are just like again the tip of the iceberg related to the science topics they have in the Merge Explorer app. And then the other app they have is one called Object Viewer. So this one is just specifically tied to 3D models. So it's 3D model libraries, or libraries of 3D models, sort of categorized. So here we have like, there's a featured object list here. There's a collection. So like if you're studying cells, like turning the cube, it loads there into a plant cell. I think it needs to download. Come on. Oh, there it goes. And there we go. Right, so turning it into a three-dimensional plant cell with interactive, the parts of the plant they could tap into and they can learn more about it. Yeah, there we go. I can bring that really close and examine it closer. Right, so lots of different models. One way we've used this in my school, project we're still working on, is we've partnered with Queen Emma Summer Palace, and we were able to visit them and pull out some of the artifacts they have in their basement and help them 3D scan them. And then we're using Object Viewer as a way to allow students to explore different artifacts related to the history of Hawaii, specifically through the Queen Emma Summer Palace. So bringing those objects to life, bringing them into the hands of students, doing something they can't actually do when they're physically at the Summer Palace. So I won't show this to you. This is slide 25, but there is a link that gives you instructions on how to access these artifacts that we've scanned. If you have the Merge Cube and you have access to the app at your school. So feel free to check that out. It's one way we're trying to bring the history of Hawaii into classrooms. And then jumping back into Google Arts and Culture. So I showed you some virtual experiences to Google Arts and Culture, but they also have 3D models that you can explore as well. And just like with the cube, you can like project those models into your physical environment through the Google Arts and Culture app, like the International Space Station, or I've pulled out some examples here, like Mars Perseverance rover. So you could, through the Google Arts and Culture app, they can put the rover on their desk in their classroom and explore a high quality 3D model of the rover. And then you can, fly through the Edinburgh Castle. So they've got really good high quality scans of physical locations around the world. So feel free to click through those and check out some of these examples of exploring in 3D through Google Arts and Culture. And then the last one here is Clone. So this is an app that allows you to create scans of physical objects. So this is what we used to scan artifacts at Queen Emma Summer Palace. And you just need an iPad, and you need to print out this little grid here, and you put the artifact on the grid, and then you use the iPad and you walk around it. And what it does is it takes lots of little pictures all around the model, and then it stitches all those images together to create a three-dimensional version of that object. So you don't need, there's like really good quality 3D scanners out there, but they cost like thousands of dollars. And they cost that much money because they create really good quality scans. But if you're looking for a cheap way to kind of give that experience to students, this is a really cheap way to do that. And you just need iPads and this printable paper here, and you can create 3D scans of pretty much anything that fits within that grid. And then you can export those models into other apps like CoSpaces and other 3D modeling tools. So Clone is a really great cheap way to create scans of real things. And then again, just connecting it back. So that's the tool that we use to create scans of the Queen Emma Summer Palace models. If you guys are interested in trying something out like CoSpaces specifically, I've got a trial code there. That'll give you 30 days of the tool, the pro version, and up to 100 seats. So I think that's a good amount of time to maybe try one project, see if you like it. And if you don't, the trial will just end. And if you do, it's something you can look into purchasing for your students. But if you use this trial code here, that'll give you access for 30 days and 100 seats. I get no kickbacks from this. I'm not making any money off the trial code. I just love the tool. I love sharing about it. If something you want to explore, feel free to use that trial code and give it a try. And then a couple of great places if you want to join any communities related to the topics of AR, VR. There's a really great Facebook group that I help manage called Virtual and Augmented Reality for Education. There's like tens of thousands of educators in there from around the world. We're always having great conversations around these topics and how we're using them in our classrooms. And then my website where you found this presentation today is AR VR EDU Hub. So pretty much anything I do related to AR VR in my class, I'm sharing it on my website. I think sharing is extremely helpful, extremely powerful. So everything I do, I love to share. I think I have a whole page dedicated to Merge, whole page dedicated to CoSpaces EDU. So I'm sharing all the projects I'm doing there. So feel free to visit and kind of dig around on my website there if you want to learn more about these topics. And with that, I want to thank everyone for joining me today. Thanks for watching. For those of you viewing the recording later, if you ever have any questions, you want to run an idea by someone and get some input, I'm more than happy to help. My email is on the screen there. Yeah, as well as my my social media information's on the website. And I want to thank iTeach 808 and Laurel specifically. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and
Thank
enjoy the
you,
rest of the
Michael.
conference. Thanks,
We're
Laurel.
so happy to have you. Michael is one of our first iTeach 808 presenters 10 years ago, and he continues to make this conference what it is today. We just really appreciate you. I'm going to advocate for you to be the next keynote at Schools of the
Oh, no.
Future. Like, that was mind blowing. So good, Michael. Thank you
Laurel.
so much.
Thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. We had one question about the link to the 3D Apollo images.
Oh yes, that's right. Let me see if I can find that.
Okay.
So I can figure out where I got that from. This. Icon. Must be that. I think it's pretty sure it's this. Let me go back. This is where Apollo 11 came from. I'll put it in the chat. But they definitely have 3D scans of all kinds of other stuff. But that's where the Apollo 11 came from. And I think I just I think it was the command module that I used in the CoSpaces experience. You can see there's I mean, even like Neil Armstrong's suit as a 3D model, gloves, things like that. And then there's a download button. I think that yeah, you can choose which 3D object to download. Not sure which one. I think it was the combined one. Full resolution 3D mesh. And OBJ is the 3D model file type. And CoSpaces allows you to upload OBJ files. And then yeah. Yeah, there you go. So
And
have fun
then
exploring Smithsonian. Lots of stuff.
And then if you make a 3D model in CoSpaces, are you able to upload that to YouTube?
No, so CoSpaces is like, it's its own standalone tool. So you can't,
Okay.
you can upload things into CoSpaces to use in a CoSpace project, but you can't export a CoSpace out and use it somewhere else.
Okay,
It stays in CoSpaces.
awesome.
I mean, you
All
could
right.
do like a, I mean, you could do like a screen recording of a CoSpaces project as a standard like 2D
Mhm.
video.
Okay,
There's no way to export it as like a 360 video.
gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, mahalo, Michael, and to everybody else for your participation. Thank you for the awesome questions. We hope that you found this session helpful and made some valuable connections. Special thanks again to our sponsors, Sacred Hearts Academy Honolulu and the Augustine Educational Foundation, for making this conference free for the past 10 years. Please make sure that you help us and complete this survey about this presentation so that we can continue to receive the grant funding. And I'll put that link in the chat. You'll also receive a certificate of participation after completing the survey and automatically be entered to win one of 10 $10 Target gift cards if you complete this survey before February 4th. The survey will also be sent to the email address that you registered with. Please make sure to check your spam folder for any emails from I Teach 808 Hawaii. Thanks again for being here, and feel free to join our lab session coming up. And I'll put that in the chat. Thank you.
So much.
you.
Thanks, Lance. It's good
Michael.
seeing you again,
Good to
man.
See you again, buddy.
Okay.
Thanks so much for your help today.